Imagine standing outside on the coldest night you can remember, maybe a bone-chilling -30 degrees F winter evening. The kind where your breath turns instantly to mist and frost forms on your eyelashes before you even blink. Now picture doing all that without the benefit of modern insulated jackets, heated homes, or even a simple fire pit to sit by. Sounds impossible, right? But this is exactly what the Vikings faced. These fearless Norse explorers not only survived, but thrived in some of the harshest northern climates on Earth, armed with nothing but the raw materials nature handed them. Rocks, sticks, and pure, stubborn ingenuity. So how in the world did they do it? Here's where things get wild. This might be the strangest Viking survival trick you've never heard of. Yet it was the ultimate multi-tool that kept these legendary warriors alive through endless winter nights and brutal seas. Forget swords or longships. They built a survival kit from the ground up, literally out of rocks and sticks, that functioned like a 1,000-watt heater and a medieval Swiss army knife rolled into one. Intrigued you should be. Because this simple, ancient technology was part heating system, multi-purpose tool, shelter builder, and even primitive gadget all in one. And yes, no magic, just pure human brainpower paired with the environment. Let's dive in. First, the Vikings mastered what you could call the stone and stick whittling combo, but not just for creating crude weapons. Imagine an ancient version of a Leatherman multi-tool, but made entirely from materials you can find lying around. They took advantage of certain types of stones, volcanic rocks, flint, and especially those that retained and released heat slowly, like soapstone, and paired them with wooden handles carefully carved from ash or elm trees. But here's the kicker. They used these stone-on-wood tools far beyond chopping or cutting. These multifunctional tools did everything from carving intricate patterns on wood and bone to hacking through frozen hides and even igniting fires. Picture this as the Norse version of a 21st century multi-purpose camping axe, designed with functional elegance and brutal efficiency. Technically, these stones had a heat retention capability that we still admire today. Soapstone, one of their favorites, can absorb and hold warmth for hours, slowly releasing it to keep things cozy. And by cozy, I mean literally creating pockets of warmth in freezing air that hovered well below freezing. This natural radiating heat worked like nature's version of Gore-Tex, trapping and gently dispersing heat, helping the Vikings make camp in frosty environments without modern heat tech. When heated near a fire and placed inside their shelters or even wrapped in animal skins, these stones effectively became ancient hot water bottles, delivering sustainable warmth that could last through the night. But it didn't stop there. These stone and stick combos were precision-engineered tools for survival. Thanks to their intimate knowledge of local woods and rocks, Viking craftsmen developed handles that absorbed shock and reduced fatigue, a necessity when working in temperatures where human muscle function drops dramatically. Imagine swinging a modern-day hammer that is ergonomically designed to carry your strength without wearing you down, but built out of twisted, gnarled branches micromanaged to fit the exact grip size of your hand. The woods and stones were partners in this dance of survival. Science today calls this perfect grip work ergonomics and shock absorption. Back then, it was Viking common sense. Now, as practical as all that sounds, there's a sensory side to this ingenuity that often goes unnoticed. Picture a Viking, cloaked in thick layered furs, sitting by a modest fire, but instead of just holding their hands out to the flames, they hold a smooth, warm soapstone in their palms. The porous texture feels almost like warm skin. It radiates tangible heat, comforting in a way that sparks human connection to nature. For them, these stones were almost objects of reassurance, much like how we clutch a hot coffee cup on a cold morning, only with twice the heat and no risk of spills. The experience wasn't just functional, it was deeply human, a small tactile joy in the harshest conditions. But all that warmth would vanish if they didn't have shelter. And yet, here the Vikings turned those same rocks and sticks into a lethal combo of insulating armor for their homes. Using wood frames layered systematically with turf, moss, and animal hides held down by heavy stones, they created dwellings that resisted wind chills, often plunging beyond -40 degrees F. This might sound like primitive building, but think of it as the medieval equivalent of bubble wrap for houses. Multiple layers trapping air and preventing heat loss that can reach up to 60% overnight in exposed huts. The rocks weren't just heavy doorstops. They anchored roofs, reinforced walls, and absorbed daytime heat to combat the biting cold at dawn. What's stunning here is how they layered materials strategically. Rocks placed at the base to stabilize the sod roofs, sticks woven tightly for structural integrity, and moss packed in every crevice like nature's fiberglass insulation. Modern scientists estimate that such a design could maintain internal temperatures at least 15 to 20 degrees warmer than outside ambient air, a vital difference when frostbite and hypothermia loom. Viking homes were not just shelters. They were thermal capsules engineered with precision using nothing but local natural resources and a deep understanding of their environment. And if you think the Vikings only used their tools for survival, think again. This multi-tool approach extended into their daily lives, especially food prep and hunting gear. Those same sharp-edged stones attached to sticks became specialized knives for skinning animals, crucial for securing every bit of meat and pelts needed for nutrition and warmth. But more impressively, they crafted spears and arrowheads with lethal precision, combining rock blades with hardwood shafts balanced for distance and impact. This is the kind of gear that turned every hunt from a gamble into a calculated survival tactic, like upgrading from a basic slingshot to a sniper rifle, all invented centuries before the modern rifle existed. The process involved chipping flint with hammer stones in a practice called knapping, a technique requiring remarkable skill. Each piece shaped was an engineering feat. Blade lengths ranged from 2 to 6 inches, edges sharp enough to slice through sinew and bone, and balanced perfectly for throwing. For comparison, a modern hunting knife blade is typically around 4 inches, so these rock tools were right in the effective range for both close work and throwing distance. The Vikings weren't just lucky hunters. They were ancient toolmakers wielding proto-technology with deadly efficiency. And it wasn't just hunting. The same multi-tool design philosophy allowed Vikings to fish in freezing waters, build complex longboats, and repair gear swiftly on the go. Their stick-and-rock tools were versatile, rugged, and indispensable. Think of them as the Norse equivalent of today's Swiss Army blades, but with less metal and more grit. But even with all this ingenuity, the Vikings faced one massive problem: wetness. We think cold is the enemy, but dampness was often worse. Wet clothes freeze faster, skin chills quicker, and hypothermia latches on relentlessly. In icy fjords and snowy fields, battling moisture was a daily challenge. So how did rocks and sticks help here? Enter the Viking answer. Drying racks built from interlocked sticks combined with warm stones placed strategically to generate indirect heat and air circulation. A rudimentary but effective drying tech that scientists today would call passive convection drying. Imagine weaving a lattice of flexible branches stretched over the hearth area of their homes, with select stones heated during the day placed beneath to radiate warmth upwards gently. This setup created a microenvironment where moisture evaporated without direct fire exposure, preventing cloth damage. It is basically nature's version of a heated drying rack, and crucially, it meant that the Vikings could reuse their clothing and pelts again and again without freezing solid. The cleverness is staggering when you realize this was centuries before electric dryers or even central heating. And drying wasn't the only way they used heat cycles. Some archaeological findings suggest that Vikings deliberately froze meat on stones and then thawed it using heated rocks to preserve food longer. An early form of food storage cycle exploiting temperature control without refrigeration. Think of it as a primitive sous vide, but with more ice and rocks, keeping protein fresh and edible during long voyages or winter scarcity. This mastery of rock and stick multi-tools, combining heating, building, hunting, and drying, reveals a level of innovation we often underestimate when thinking of ancient peoples. The Vikings didn't just survive. They engineered solutions that were multifunctional, efficient, and tailored perfectly to the brutal climate they called home. Their techniques mirror many of our modern survival tools and technologies, but without the luxury of metals, plastics, or electricity, just the raw earth in their own hands. And here's something to really sink your teeth into. This multi-tool concept wasn't static. It evolved over time, passed down through generations, refined with experience, seasonal needs, and local resource availability. This continuous improvement mindset is the foundation of human innovation itself, connecting us directly with those icy Scandinavian shores, where rocks and sticks became the ultimate lifeline. But we're just starting to scratch the surface of this story. Next, we'll uncover how the Vikings integrated these tools into the construction of their legendary longships, turning wood and stone into sailing marvels that crossed oceans, and how this simple multi-tool philosophy unlocked not just survival, but conquest and expansion across Europe. Stick around, because what you're about to see next will forever change how you think about Viking technology and ingenuity. But here's where the truly mind-blowing part kicks in. The Vikings weren't just content with using rocks and sticks as static tools. They engineered dynamic heat management systems that could be controlled and adapted on the fly. Imagine, in the middle of freezing tundra, a primitive heating system so clever it mimicked the function of modern radiant floor heating. Except it was created entirely using heated stones embedded beneath layers of turf in their homes. This wasn't random piling of rocks. They knew exactly which stones to pick: soapstone and basalt, which could absorb up to 500 degrees F at a fire's peak, yet release that stored heat slowly over 8 to 10 hours. The Vikings arranged these stones in shallow pits beneath insulated floors, layering them with moss and animal skins, creating a thermal battery that warmed the entire living space long after the fire died down. Think of it as a 1,000-watt heater working silently underfoot, keeping frostbite at bay without bulky equipment or fuel-guzzling devices. And these stones weren't fragile either. Their durability meant they could withstand thousands of heating-cooling cycles without cracking or losing thermal capacity. The science behind this is shockingly sophisticated. The porous structure of soapstone traps heat like a sponge traps water, releasing it gradually through conduction and infrared radiation. This long-wave heat penetrates walls and hearths alike, creating an ambient warmth that penetrated thick layers of hide clothing, even when external temperatures plummeted below -30 degrees F. It's no wonder Viking settler sites show so few cases of cold-related illness. This passive heating was literally life-saving technology. But all that warmth would vanish if the Vikings hadn't perfected air circulation to avoid suffocation and smoke buildup. Their solution: ingenious wooden vents crafted from interwoven sticks and tied with sinew, regulating airflow with an efficiency modern HVAC systems envy. These breathing walls provided just enough fresh air to sustain fires without sacrificing heat, a delicate balance achieved through trial, error, and generations of observational wisdom. In essence, their homes were smart, eco-friendly microclimates centuries before green building was a buzzword. The meticulous arrangement of sticks also stopped drafts, functioning much like modern windbreaks by redirecting gusts around these shelters, keeping internal temperatures stable even during howling Nordic storms. And it didn't stop at the home front. The Vikings also developed portable heating solutions that doubled as cooking tools. Stones heated by fire were wrapped in bark and placed inside woven wooden baskets, serving as warmers for food and hands alike during long voyages or hunts. Imagine holding a compact, rock-based warmer, as efficient as a mini hot pack, allowing a fisherman in the icy North Atlantic to thaw frozen fingers and cook simple meals without the need for a full campfire. Given the risk of fire on wooden vessels, this low-flame, stone-based tech was revolutionary and undoubtedly saved many lives by preventing frostbite and hypothermia on open seas. Transitioning from heat to crafting, the same stones and sticks formed the backbone of Viking woodworking mastery. Their stone tools, sharpened with knapping precision down to edges as thin as 0.5 millimeters, allowed them to carve everything from delicate ship figureheads to massive beams for their legendary longships. Using flint and obsidian blades attached to sturdy ash or oak handles, their craftsmen could shape timber with a finesse that rivals many Bronze Age metal tools. Modern woodworking projects often require specialized carbide blades and power tools. Yet these ancient rock-on-wood combos achieved smooth finishes and aerodynamic curves purely through technique and material synergy. This is fascinating because soapstone's softness allowed Viking artisans to create molds and templates, while flint and basalt's hardness were perfect for cutting and scraping. The ergonomic grips on wooden handles, shaped to fit the hand exactly, reduced fatigue during the intense labor of shipbuilding, which could take entire seasons to complete. Such attention to detail and efficiency hints at a surprisingly advanced form of industrial design built entirely on natural resources. It's like watching proto-engineering in motion, yet with zero metal components. And when it came to hunting and gathering, the rock and stick multi-tool was nothing short of a game changer. Viking hunters designed spear shafts precisely balanced to throw with lethal accuracy beyond 60 feet, impressive given the blunt force limitations of wood alone. The sharp stone tips effectively penetrated tough hides and bone, often coated with tar or resin made from tree sap to securely bind them to shafts. This combination of materials optimized force transfer and durability, akin to today's composite arrows or tactical spearheads. In fact, experimental archaeology shows that these stone-tipped spears could pierce deer hides, thicker than 1/4 inch, and cause fatal damage with minimal strain on the hunter, an essential advantage in sub-zero settings where exhaustion could mean death. What's more, these hunting tools were maintained meticulously, using small sharpening stones that Vikings carried on expeditions, portable toolkits designed for survival. These stone sharpeners, sometimes as small as a thumb, removed microscopic chips from the edges to maintain razor-sharp blades, much like modern ceramic honing rods. This attention to ongoing maintenance meant their tools remained ready for action, embodying a mindset of preparedness that modern survivalists would admire. But all this skill and craftsmanship could still fail without effective preservation of their most critical resource: food. Picture entire stores of meat, fish, and berries needing to last through months of frozen wasteland. The Vikings leaned heavily on rock, stick, and cold, mastering preservation techniques like freezing meat on slabs of stone, and then slowly tempering it with heated rocks to reduce spoilage. This early cold curing process functioned like a prehistoric refrigerator, controlling temperatures between 20 degrees F and 32 degrees F to keep bacteria at bay without freezing the food solid, preserving texture and nutrition. It's a culinary art form built on temperature management, executed with the precision of a modern walk-in cold storage unit, but without electricity. And here's the kicker: the stones themselves became the passport for food safety. Clay-lined stone pits, insulated with turf and wood, became storage cellars where air flowed just enough to prevent rot. These natural coolers maintained stable environments for perishables, mimicking principles now applied in industrial food refrigeration and root cellar design. In an age before plastic sealants and chemical preservatives, Vikings leveraged geology and biology to feed whole communities through brutal winters. Even in everyday life, these rock and stick multi-tools enabled domestic tasks never once thought simplistic. Pottery shards with sharp edges were used to cut vegetables, fish bones were worked into needles for sewing pelts, and wooden mallets shaped with stone axes crafted intricate jewelry and runed stones. This holistic approach meant the Viking multi-tool was not just an object, it was an entire survival philosophy. It represented adaptability, efficiency, and respect for nature's materials, while pushing human creativity to the limits. Which brings us to the crowning achievement: the integration of these tools into the most iconic symbol of Viking ingenuity, the longship. Each stage of shipbuilding involved rock-and-stick tools precisely engineered for specific functions: carving, drilling, and fastening. The ship's wooden frames were shaped by stone adzes with handles formed from curved ash branches, capitalizing on both leverage and shock absorption to minimize fatigue during weeks of hammering and carving. Blacksmithing hadn't fully replaced stone in many Viking communities yet, so these tools were the backbone of naval construction. Not only that, but heated stones went beyond survival and craftsmanship. They played a role in ritual and morale. Archaeological evidence suggests Viking shipbuilders used heated stones to straighten warped timbers by applying gradual heat and pressure, similar to modern wood steam bending, allowing them to create the graceful curves essential for ocean-worthy vessels. This subtle technique wasn't just craftsmanship. It was an art form blending physics, patience, and ancestral wisdom. Imagine a shipwright of old, releasing the stress in stubborn wood with only a hot stone and careful pressing, shaping what would become a vessel crossing hundreds of miles of icy, treacherous waters. A testament to how rock and stick mastery propelled Viking conquest and exploration. So, why does this ultra-versatile, non-metal multi-tool matter to us today? It reminds us that survival isn't just about the latest gadget, but about adapting creatively and sustainably to the world around us. In an era obsessed with disposable technology, the Viking example teaches resilience built on simplicity and deep connection with natural materials. It's a profound reminder that sometimes the best tech isn't what's newest, but what's somehow perfectly attuned, crafted from humble elements like stone and wood, layered with intelligence and care. Every choice the Vikings made came from a fierce will to protect their families, their legacy, and their future. From heated soapstones warming freezing hands to perfectly napped spearheads lethal across snowy battlefields, these ancient people engineered multi-tools that balanced function, comfort, and survival under unimaginable conditions. Their story is not just history. It's a mirror reflecting human resilience, creativity, and the relentless drive to thrive against all odds. So next time you're layering up on a cold day or fiddling with your multi-tool, remember the Vikings, who mastered the ultimate multi-tool with nothing but rocks, sticks, and pure sheer will.